Thank you very much, RSST Scientific Committee and the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I'm asked to speak on gaps in diabetes care, challenges and solutions. So I will be actually introducing this particular topic in relevance to World Diabetes Day. So that is a advantage for me. So I'm given this opportunity by our senior people who have thought about World Diabetes Day, the coming World Diabetes Day. So then the components of World Diabetes Day theme are these things what I have given here: access to insulin, oral medicine, self-monitoring, education and healthy food. So access to diabetes care in reference to these particular components of this particular theme program is the issue for the next 3 years, from 2021 to 2023. The theme program of World Diabetes Days for next 3 years are access to diabetes care, access to good diabetes care, if not now, when. So my agenda for today's presentation is here. So I will start with the diabetes doctors. So now anyway, for last 1 year, all of us are trained in talking online. So most of us have shifted to online. Many of the diabetes doctors also shifted to online. So it's a good thing. Then I just want to add the number of doctors being trained in diabetes or endocrinology is here. You can see here. There are hardly 4 doctors who are trained every year in diploma diabetology, and 3 doctors are given fellowship in diabetology every year, and about 106 doctors get their DM endocrinology every year. So that is the status. So every year we are adding about 100, 110 doctors who are trained in diabetes for providing diabetes care in our country. But just think about this. We have about something like 7 crores people affected with the diabetes out of 100. So if one doctor can provide good diabetes care or minimal diabetes care to about 1,000 people, we need about 70,000 diabetes doctors in India. That's a big gap. I don't have a great solution for this, but you have to remember that you need many more doctors to take up diabetes practice. Diabetes care should be given to all required diabetic patients. This is a big gap, and for last several years, people have been trying to fill up the gap, but it will not be possible in the coming next 1 or 2 decades. Then about the overweight, the most important issue in diabetes care is to identify overweight and also manage overweight and also make people aware of overweight and obesity. That's a great issue. One of the gaps in the definition of overweight, we are not yet sure what exactly is overweight in Indian population. People say that BMI above 23 should be considered as overweight in Asian Indians. And some people consider this during their research studies. Some people do not. But basically ICMR study, ICMR is almost like a most referred study in India when we talk about the statewide population data. So abdominal obesity and generalized obesity, both of them are supposed to be largest risk factors for diabetes. So that's a known thing. So more than any other risk factor, we know from the available literature that obesity or overweight is the single largest risk factor. And if you look at this data on overweight, prevalence of overweight in adults about 20 years, you can see you can attribute this particular overweight or increasing BMI may or may not be amounting to overweight or obesity by our changing BMI criteria. But any BMI increasing in any person, if he is a diabetic, the chances of him losing his DALYs is average life years. So these are all adjusted life years for disabilities. So they are more if the person who is overweight or obesity. So there is a big issue. So BMI is the single largest risk factor for developing diabetes, for loss of economy, for loss of societal health. So lots of issues are involved with high BMI. So high BMI with or without being diagnosed as overweight or obesity, is a single largest reason for feeling bad about it. And we should all be aware of it, and we should try to diagnose it very early and also start treating it very early. So we do have obesity in India. We have people, almost like 30% of our population seem to have BMI more than 23 or 25, whatever is the definition of obesity is. This is a very recent paper. They have done very complicated formulas and statistical calculations to give us an idea about lifetime risk of diabetes at different age groups, at 20 age group, 40 age groups, and 60 age group. And you can very well see here that people who are overweight are obesity, these are by Western standards actually, obesity or overweight, seem to be at a large risk of developing diabetes, even at a younger age. You can see here a person with a 20 years age group, whether male or female, whether a boy or a girl, they seem to have very high risk for developing diabetes. The lifetime risk of diabetes at different age groups is a sort of a panicky situation for us. If you look at this data, and even the younger population with marginal overweight, marginal levels of increasing body mass index, they seem to be at a very large risk for developing diabetes and the complications of diabetes also. And waist circumference, you can see here, anybody with more than 90 centimeters in men and more than 80 centimeters in women are also, even at a younger age, for 20 years, they are more prone for developing diabetes. So that's how we are going to have a great explosion of diabetic population in India in near future. Then I will talk to you about fatty liver, the most important issue which we have to consider hereafter with great emphasis will be fatty liver. So we have been talking so much about cardiology, so much about nephrology, so much about peripheral arterial disease, retinopathy, nephropathy. For some reason, we tend to talk less about fatty liver. But you know, almost everybody, or at least let me say 2/3 of the population with diabetes in India, they have fatty liver. They have fatty liver. All of us know about it because we all do ultrasound examination almost once in a year in all our population. We know about fatty liver. So, but we don't do much about fatty liver. But now remember, recent times, gastroenterologists and hepatologists, they are coming out with a very grim situation that people with diabetes and NASH, non-alcoholic steatotic hepatitis, with inflammatory component, they tend to develop hepatocellular carcinoma. So they say half of the population with diabetes and NASH, they are sure to develop hepatocellular carcinoma. So diabetes not only is a problem with cardiovascular disease or renal disease or PCOS or GERD, and all such things, but you also have to give more importance to steatic hepatitis. The solution for this is, it is there with us. We have a solution for this. It seems if you lose about 15% weight, people don't give any cutoff point. They say whatever your weight is, you just lose by 15%, and you are relieved of NASH and NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver. It's a very good suggestion. And we have been hearing from hepatologists and biliary medicine specialists from India, especially from India. And you see, India is the only country which has included this fatty liver issue in our NCD programs. It's not yet done by other countries, so it's very nice to know that the people and policymakers are working very hard to make the relevant issues particular to this country in the planning programs. NASH can be relieved by 15% body mass index, 15% in the body weight. Now you can see this BMI. I was very surprised to see this kind of a MRI picture where they have shown that somebody with a 30.4% fat in the abdomen or liver, 30.4% fat in the liver has actually improved by showing only 1.3. That means the person has lost all the liver fat in just 4 to 8 weeks, in 4 weeks, some in 4 weeks, some in 8 weeks, just taking 600 to 850 calories diet. So it's a very nice thing, which this is I don't think we can have that kind of improvement with any kind of disorders, except in hypothyroidism. We don't see this kind of a dramatic improvement in a disease or in a disorder or in a problem like this. 30% liver fat has disappeared in 4 weeks by just reducing the calories to 600 to 850 daily. So it's a great thing. So even the solution is with us. We know the problem. The solution is with us. So fatty liver, not only for reducing insulin resistance, but also for avoiding getting HCC, hepatocellular carcinoma, is going to be a big issue in near future for diabetic population and diabetes doctors in India. Then, okay, we have seen this overweight and obesity. But other side of the coin, we still have many people who do not have enough to eat. And people have been talking about high carbohydrate. Previous lecturers, previous speakers also talked about high carbohydrate being the culprit for developing diabetes in India. But look at this particular picture. Okay, Indians eat a lot of carbohydrates, 76%, 71%, both in rural and urban population. A lot of carbohydrates, and Western people eat less carbohydrates, fine, but they also have as much diabetes as we have. And India is not the capital of diabetes in the world anyway. Americans have more numbers, more Americans have diabetes than Indian population. Coming to the prevalence of diabetes, prevalence rates of diabetes in India stand somewhere in between, in the middle of the graph. It is not top. We are not the diabetes capital. There are so many other countries which have more diabetes than our country. So please do not go on blaming carbohydrate. You may have to increase protein. Yes, you can see here, Indians eat less proteins. So maybe that is one reason. Maybe that is the reason why we are getting diabetes. So a recent study by several people, 2021, they have done a very difficult research program by looking at 3 single nucleotide, 3 SNPs, and they call it a genetic risk score. So they looked for genetic risk score in people who have been eating less than 40 grams of protein and people who have been eating more than 40 grams. So people eating less and more of protein actually have shown a characteristic, a very distinct association with the development of glucose. People who eat less protein, they have more glucose. People who eat less protein, they have more of hemoglobin A1C. So like this, there are occasional papers coming out in India. You can see this is all contributed by Indian doctors only. So such data is coming out, and you have to give more and more importance to non-carbohydrate material. So you have protein. Protein is a very important thing. We know that people are India, we are all protein deficient. So you have to think about such things also instead of going on blaming carbohydrate for everything. Okay, this is a very old study by ICMR in India, in abroad, in migrant Indians from Guyana, migrant Indians from Malaysia, first generation, second generation, recent migrants to South Island. Ultimately, we found out that less fiber and more fat in urban and migrant Indians seem to be more associated with diabetes prevalence. Then we'll go to self-monitoring. Yeah, people have become very aggressive nowadays. The younger people, they all do a lot of self-monitoring of blood glucose. You see more and more people are using a lot of flash technology for things. But it is also important that we should think about the newer technology, not going on talking about blood glucose, but maybe you should think about some alternate method. So something like a dried blood spot. Dried blood spot actually helps us in easier transport, in easier collection, and better preservation of your blood sample before it reaches the lab. So these things also have to be talked about. So there are a lot of gaps in the collection and transport of biochemical samples. That's very important. Then yes, long time people have been trying all sorts of non-invasive technology to look for diabetes control. So far, nothing has come out. We are also one group which have been trying for last 20 years to develop some non-invasive biomarkers in diabetes control to monitor the diabetes control. That's also, yeah. Then coming to the oral medicine, there was a discussion recent in previous lectures. You see, these oral medicines prescribed by many countries, American, Australian, or European, or whatever. Most of these countries have made GLP receptor agonist and SGLT2 inhibitor as the almost first line. You can see here 2021, independent of HbA1c. What previously they used to say, if you don't reach HbA1c of 7%, then consider these costly medicines. But now they say independent of baseline A1C, independent of your target, and independent of your metformin use, whether you have used maximal dose of metformin or not, you just start either GLP-1 receptor agonist or SGLT2 inhibitor, depending on the risk factors. And they say these risk factors, indicators of high risk. Every Asian Indian is high risk for coronary artery disease. Every Asian Indian should be on GLP receptor agonist and SGLT2 inhibitor according to our algorithms, our protocols for last 10 years, almost 10 years. Everybody in the world, all cardiologists, all nephrologists, all diabetologists from Europe and America are coming together and trying to advise us that GLP receptor agonist and SGLT2 inhibitor is the first line drug, almost bypassing the metformin. So this is an issue, it's a very large gap. We cannot afford that. It almost costs like 70 rupees each tablet of SGLT2, and GLP receptor agonist costs about 4,500 per week. So things are very expensive for people like us in India. So, but in these algorithms also mention about sulfonylurea, thiazolidinediones. So there was a discussion about sulfonylurea. It's good that we cannot discard sulfonylurea forever. We have to think about sulfonylurea. And even all these algorithms, all these protocols are mentioning that people who are from the lower or middle income group may consider still using sulfonylurea, thiazolidinediones. Don't have to go for SGLT2 and GLP receptor in the first line or second line of the or medicine care. The last one is insulin practices in India. There's a large gap, and this is our consensus statement from ESI, from Endocrine Society, plus RSSDI, recently published, and a lot of research and a lot of discussion. Several meetings have happened before they brought out this clinical practice recommendations. And when you start insulin, they say you have to start with the long-acting insulin, and then you add the short-acting insulin, like you make it a basal bolus. That is almost like a universal phenomenon, universal way of insulin practices anywhere in the world. But if you look at this data in India, we still have about 70% of our population who are on premix, like a fixed dose combination of premix. So it's not fair to continue with the premix insulins. And if you look at the lower data presentation, this is a very recent, few months back it has come out. Even IDDM, even type 1 diabetics are being treated with the insulin regimes in type 1 diabetes. About 12% of them are on premix insulins. And all over the world, people have been thinking about introducing basal insulins plus bolus or prandial insulins. We still in India, we continue practicing pre-mix insulin regimes, both in type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes. So it's a big gap, and we may have to think about it. And please remember that unless you reach an average or reach a near normal hemoglobin A1C, you cannot depend on premix or you cannot depend on other insulins. You have to do a lot of basal insulin therapy plus prandial therapy. Still you reach a level nearer to 7% of hemoglobin. So once it is 7 or 8%, then you can attempt all sorts of premix insulins. But before that, there is no role for that. But unfortunately, majority of our people, I'm not talking much about the accessibility to insulin. There's a lot of problem there. Is a big gap. It's still millions of people in the world are not able to afford buying insulin, including in India, especially in type 1 children. So this is another issue which they are rising for the theme for this year's World Diabetes Day. So these are all the components of theme for this World Diabetes Day, I have tried to join these components to our particular theme or particular topic. And thank you very much. Thank you.